Let's look at some of the requirements for installing ACE on your system. As I said earlier, when you get the ACE installation kit, it's going to have both ACE version 1.x and 2.x in the installation kit, which, if you decide to install only one of them, it will be dependent on which version of the development environment that you're going to be using. If you're using Visual Basic 6, then you will want to pay closer attention to ACE version 1. If you're using the .NET Studio with the .NET Framework version 1.1, you will want to pay closer attention to ACE version 2. Both of the applications, both the versions of the applications, do require a Pi server of version 3.3 or higher, and that's because it must have a module database. When you install ACE, you can select which functions, which applications or elements you do want on the particular machine you're installing on. And there are some reasons why you might want to not install all of them on a given machine. You may have an instance where you just have a single machine as your development environment. In that case, you may only want to install the ACE wizard or ACE manager on the developer workstation. If you're going to be running ACE on a separate computer, you may want to only install the scheduler on the Pi server or the scheduler in the manager. And if you're going to be using one version or the other, maybe you don't want to install both ACE version 1 and ACE version 2. You could select which one you wanted to install. So you can be selective if you want. The default is to install everything, and we do install all applications and files in the Program Files PyPC folder. That's where you will find all of the ACE applications. When you do install ACE, it is going to ask you for the location of at least one Pi server. The Pi server is used to store the configuration of ACE, and that is stored in the Pi module database on that server. So you will be required to point your installation to at least one Pi server. And when you install the ACE scheduler, you're going to find a new system service that is installed on the system. And you're going to find, if you choose all the defaults, you're going to find both ACE version 1 and version 2 schedulers. Now, they will be installed, they will not be started when they're initially installed, and they will be a startup type of manual. You will have to go adjust that if you want to start them up, or if you want to change the startup type to automatic. We usually recommend you change it to automatic in case for some reason the power gets cycled on that machine and it has to reboot. Which wizard you get will, or how the wizards present themselves, is in the development environment. In Visual Basic 6, you will find the ACE wizard under add-ins. In Visual Studio .NET 2003 or 2005, you will find the ACE wizard under the Tools menu. We'll see that a little bit later. And then finally, the ACE Manager is a standalone application that will be found in your Start Program Files Pi System menu on your in your program tree on your system. So at this point, we would ask the students, which folder would you likely find the ACE software? And the answer to that would be the Program Files PyPC folder. And where does ACE store its configuration data? Of course, that's the Pi module database on one of the Pi servers that you're using. At this point in class, we would ask the students to locate the ACE components on their computer. That would involve opening up the development environment and finding the wizard, opening up the ACE Manager application in the Start Programs Pi System folder, and you could look at the ACE Scheduler application in the Windows Services applet.